What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video on the budget build Civic Coupe. Now, as previously mentioned, I've got some larger brakes to go on the front of this car. I've also got a slight knock which is intermittent coming from, I believe, to be the inner track rod end on the steering rack. So we're going to have a quick look at that. I have got a spare. I've got one from the EG build. You know, I kept like a few spares and things, and it is the same part number as the DC2, EG and EK chassis on this, the EM1. So that's what's on the cards today, as you've probably guessed by the title of the video. And I'll explain why this upgrade is probably going to be one of the best upgrades for this particular car. You know, these particular calipers, if they fit and if the offset of the caliper to the brake disc is right, which I think it should be, and I'm going to be using the MG ZR160 front discs again. Anyway, we'll go more into that in a little bit. Let's crack on with the car. So I've just checked this side in comparison to the other side, and there is a slight knock. I don't think it's just in, you know, like the steering rack play. I think there definitely is something on this side inward to the steering rack rather than the end here on the track rod end that's making a slight knock. So I do think there is going to be a bit of play in that inner track rod. So that's what I'm going to have a quick look at now. Shout out to Adam Ivel, by the way, for these amazing gloves. Really nice. Padded knuckles as well for when you're punching the floor. Also, with the brake upgrade, the idea is we're going to be moving from a 262mm disc with I think it's a 52mm piston. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, we're going from a smaller diameter disc and a smaller pad size to a 282mm disc, slightly larger pad size, slightly more surface area, but the piston within the caliper won't increase in size like it does with the EK9 calipers, DC2 calipers, Prelude 2.2 front calipers. They're all the same part. So by moving to the EV1 caliper, because my dad did a EP3 front brake upgrade on his EV1, I'm taking the EV1 calipers. Should move it out to a 282mm disc, slightly more surface area, same piston size means we'll get the same amount of pressure, and the braking distribution front to rear should be the same, meaning it should stay balanced, and I shouldn't have to replace the rear brakes for slightly larger discs and slightly larger calipers, because the brake master cylinder and the proportioning valve should keep the car balanced front to rear. It will have a slight bit more bite up front because of the additional surface area, but that's the plan. That's why we're moving to the 282s up front and not doing the rears. So first things first, I'm going to crack the wheel nuts off and then jack this side of the car up. Safety first, always put an axle stand underneath. Now, really oddly, while I'm checking this, and there's no weight on it at all, so there's no, you know, it's going to be loose, there's going to be room, if you like, for play to occur if play exists, and it's not making the knocking noise. I'm going to try and give it a good wobble now, see if it does, but just trying it one-handed, it doesn't seem to make any noise, which makes me think it might be alright. Now, I always undo this, just so that the air can travel up the system when you're freeing off the brake calipers, or the fluid can travel up the system, should I say, and the air that's in this expansion, or in this reservoir, should I say, can escape out of the top. So now the wheels are off, you want to give these screws a good whack. This is a specific screwdriver for the job. It's basically metal throughout, so you're hitting the screw directly, effectively, when you put energy through the screwdriver with a hammer. So you want to shock them out, unscrew them, and that will allow your discs to come off once the caliper's off, once the pads are out, etc. I like to do this first because I have got stuck at this point and wish the caliper was in place to sort of hold the disc and stop it from spinning round, because you have to use sort of centre punch, create a bit of a nib if you do end up stripping these this Phillips head here, so you have to create a bit of a nib and then sort of hammer it round to shock it off. Anyway, hopefully that doesn't happen, hopefully this works and we can get the discs off nice and easy. So before I crack on any further, this is what I've got. I've got Mintex discs. These are, as I said before, the MG ZS180 or MG ZR160 front discs. They're a 282mm diameter, 4x100 PCD, so they fit perfect on the Civic hubs and always have done for EK9 DC2 and BB Prelude calipers, all the same caliper. And I've gone for EBC front brake pads now. I got these at a little bit of a discount thanks to Max Drift. He helped me out, did Max, with a discount code for these. I'll bob it at the bottom of the screen if I remember to do so during editing. But these are the EBC Yellow stuff pads. So hopefully a bit better of a friction across a broader temperature range, more resistant to brake fade, all that jazz, for a bit more performance. And as I say, larger diameter discs, more surface area, better for heat dispersion, and more resistant to brake fade. Oh, that's the plan. Fingers crossed. They're my rear discs. So we have really raced ahead now, and I will take you through what I've done on the opposite side of the car very shortly. But this is the old disc, as you can see, and this is the new disc, so it is quite a bit larger. Don't know if that really shows up on camera, but you can see just how much bigger it is. It's noticeably different, noticeably larger. So this is a quick mock-up. You can see it even works with the original disc shield if you trim the corners off. So this is the EV1 caliper. That's the EK4 EM1 normal 262mm caliper and carrier, EV1 caliper and carrier for the 282mm discs, and that's the MG ZS disc sort of just sat in situ, and it works perfectly. What I've done to make sure it fits is, as I mentioned, I've just trimmed the brake disc shield both at the top and the bottom so it clears. Let's get the large caliper on where it bolts up to the knuckle, and what you check is the gap between the caliper carrier on that side and caliper carrier on this side, and make sure that the disc sits centrally on the caliper itself, which it does. So the caliper, brake discs, pads, etc., the combination, the EV1 brakes, are a go. And this will work as well with the FD1 brakes, which are the 1.3, I think it is, hybrid of the 4-door sedan Honda Civic. But yeah, so you've got two caliper options there for an easy 282mm front brake upgrade, and an alternative to the now becoming quite rare BB Prelude calipers, or even rarer EK9 and DC2 front calipers. So this is a much better alternative in that the piston diameter as well stays the same size, so your pedal travel won't be increased from upgrading to these particular calipers. So I actually think this is a better option, especially if you're not upgrading the rear calipers, which, as you've seen, I've got just the standard Brembo Mintex disc and pad combo there, ready to go on the back on another day. So what I did on the other side to get the disc off and get the caliper off was undo the two 17mm bolts at the back. So there's one there and another one just below. Those 17mm hold both the carrier and caliper on. I then undid these two 10mm for the flexi, the brake pipe. Whacked those off, as you saw earlier. They unscrewed straight away on the other side once they'd been freed off and shocked off. I then cut these corners off here that sort of hug the caliper nice and neatly, so I cut those corners off from the brake disc shield, and I made a nice clean straight edge to match up with where the brake disc shield mounts so it looks OEM. And then caliper off, disc off. This is trimmed, just used some tin snips. The new caliper, the EV1/FD1 front calipers, bolt straight up, same distance between the two mounting points as the 262mm calipers. The discs go straight on, exactly the same PCD, exactly the same offset, or the perfect offset in relation to the new caliper, and everything mounted up perfectly. So I'm going to crack on now with this side, finish the other side off, wrap it all up and get the brakes bed in. Just to add as well, I will need to undo the flexi, so I'll get a quick clamp on there, brake pipe clamp, so that we don't lose much fluid and so that we don't introduce loads of air into the system, and get that bolted on to the back of the new caliper just there. So swap that over, clamp that up, swap that over, and get the new pads in, and yeah, this side will be done then. So we have some concerns on assembly in that the caliper isn't wide enough. Now I don't know if the EV1 and FD1 come with 21mm discs maybe, and then it all works and everything works in harmony. But the issue that we've got is that I've had to modify the pads slightly and remove these anti-rattle shims. Not a problem, I'm sure. But the caliper will not go over the pads together with the disc, and you can see just how close it is there. It goes over slightly. It's almost like the thickness of the paint stopping the caliper going over. It's that slight. So I'm thinking maybe it's the bedding in material that EBC use. Maybe that's added to the thickness of the pads slightly, or maybe it is that the disc, as mentioned, isn't a 23mm thickness but rather a 21mm thickness on the EV1. If it is a 23mm thickness disc on the EV1, then something here is wrong. I'm sure I've put on the bottom of the screen already what the actual problem is. But at the minute, while I'm here working on the car and I'm not editing the video, the solution is to remove this bedding in material. I'm going to try and do it as flat as possible with a pad sander, with a yeah. Wish me luck. Here we are, we have a complete disc pad setup. It works, the disc rotates, everything is happy. Not done the flexi yet, but I did have to shave off about 1mm on the pads. There's still plenty left on them. You know, I've probably lost a tenner per side of pads. No, I'm joking. Not bad, you know, there's plenty left on them, but I did have to shave off probably 1mm on the pads, including that pre-bedding surface. But it had to happen. In hindsight, what you'd do is you'd probably get this disc machined. You'd probably ask, you know, a machinist to take 1mm off either side, because I presume, I don't know yet, but I presume that the discs are thinner on the EV1 and FD1 Honda Civics that run this same caliper, and probably a thinner disc as mentioned. But it works. We've shaved the pads down. That's probably what's going to be needed moving forward. We'll get that all buttoned up, brake flexi on, and that will be that. So you join me at home now. Obviously I attached the brake flexes, I bled the brakes, and now we're in the bedding in process. Going quite quickly, to be fair, you know, they are quite aggressive pads, and I did manage to do a good job sanding them. But the brakes work mint. The pedal travel, it feels like there's even less travel than what there was, probably because the material in the brake pad itself is a more stiff material, but probably a more robust material. It's probably firmer of a pad. It's probably the best way to describe it. So that's probably why there's less brake travel, less pedal travel. It's not, you know, a full brake setup, a full brake swap, a master cylinder swap, everything else like what I did on the Civic EG that's parked outside. But as far as a budget brake setup goes, just changing to these particular front calipers and those pads, it's made a massive, massive difference. The brake pedal's much more eager. As I say, it feels like it's higher up in the pedal stroke where I'm getting the same amount of bite. So yeah, really, really good modification. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and check out these two videos. A couple of playlists here, or videos, whatever I've chosen. But if you like the build, then please consider subscribing and checking out these other videos of the build itself. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.